the political happenings around the country. Believe me, apart from the Supreme Court, there's so much that is also happening around the country. And we do know that newly elected members of Parliament under the National Super Alliance have unanimously agreed to attend tomorrow's swearing-in ceremony at Parliament buildings. Remember, a day or two before that, they were not quite sure whether or not they wanted to attend that. So let's listen to the back and forth, and then I'll introduce my panelists in studio.
The President could very well have called Parliament on a date other than the 31st of this month. We have no doubt in our minds that the reason the President has called Parliament on the 31st is to downplay the weight of the petition challenging his re-election. The President had all the chance to wait until the challenge to his election is determined by the Supreme Court before summoning Parliament.
It is not a hopeless decision even if we decide not to go to Parliament. First, it is clear that for a speaker to be elected, the first vote to be taken, there must be 2/3 majority in Parliament. That is the law. That is a standing order. You cannot take a vote that requires the super majority without ascertaining that Parliament has the numbers to conduct that business. The Parliament cannot proceed without the NASA coalition. Legally, it cannot proceed without NASA coalition in that house.
We have made a unanimous decision that our members for both the National Assembly and the Senate will attend Parliament tomorrow.
Okay, so in studio, my immediate right, we have Mark Bichachi, the political analyst. Right next to him, we have Alex Gatundu, who is a lawyer but a political mind as well. And at the extreme end, we have Odoyo Owidi, who's a political analyst. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us on Kivumbi 2017. Owidi, let me start with you. What do you make of the back and forth? We will attend, we will not attend. Okay, let's consult. Okay, right now we will show up tomorrow.
I think what has happened is that sanity has just prevailed, because if they were going to boycott the opening of Parliament, and then some people get sworn in, and then after battling so hard for their elections, spending so much money, they can't earn anything. Because you see, this swearing in is controlled by the government of the day, which is Jubilee until the court determines. And then they decide to keep these people without swearing them in for another 3 months, assuming the court goes the other way. That would have been disaster. My advice to them was, go get sworn in and begin boycotting Parliament from there. When you are an MP, you validly boycott Parliament. But when you have not been sworn in, you are boycotting a Parliament which you don't belong to.
Okay, so what probably would they gain by boycotting Parliament?
No, when people do boycotts, it's just to gain attention of what is wrong or where they are being mistreated or something like that. That's the reason why people normally boycott things.
So the thing is, go
like
get
I know
sworn
probably you used to boycott food if your dad didn't do what you wanted to be done.
No, I grew up in some... Okay, let's just leave that conversation. So they want to go get sworn in and then boycott.
You know, one of the things that Owidia said that is very critical, without that formal process of being sworn in, you're not a member of Parliament. So technically, you staying away does not constitute a boycott. You understand? You cannot say, I'm going to go on strike and have not signed an employment contract. That's basically what it is. Now, secondly, you need to understand that at the end of the day, because of the new constitution, the political survival of MPs is not necessarily tied to the political survival of the principles of NASA. And that becomes very difficult, because then selfish interests begin to play. What is selfish interest? I need to start earning a salary. I need my driver. I need my security. Insurance, I need to buy new glasses. So at the end of the day, it's not just sanity that prevailed, but I think for the NASA coalition, it became clear that it is a very hard sell to an MP who's just gone through a grueling campaign for him to suspend his MPhood so that to achieve political mileage that does not directly impact on himself. You see, so definitely it would make sense, as Owidi said, to be sworn in, get all the perks of being an MP, then do what an MP is supposed to do. Boycott and try and hinder government business in the House until you get what you want.
Would they even be able to hinder government business? Look at the numbers.
Well, you see, one of the things that we need to remember, when this parliament opens after they vote in the speaker and things like that, their second agenda is going to be, how are they going to survive the two-thirds rule? That's going to be, and that is a constitutional thing. You need two-thirds. So in this particular case, in the foreseeable future, they will need both sides of parliament to agree.
So in other words, they have to work together.
They have to work together.
Alex?
This is parliament, both at the Senate and also at the level of the National Assembly. At the end of the day, they are serving Kenyans. They are not serving Jubilee. They are not serving the other guys called NASA. They are not. They are there to serve the entire country. So that's the first thing that we must understand. Secondly, I do not see the nexus between the case is ongoing, pending judgment, and the swearing in, because that case is not going to affect the parliament, the running of parliament. Already, Jubilee has majority. In all the other 5 elections, it has majority in the Senate and also in the National Assembly. So I don't know why they're trying to draw a nexus between the two. There's no nexus. These people are still going to legislate. They're going to do their oversight. They're still going to draw budget, etc., etc. So for me, that nexus. Secondly, the most important aspect of that boycott is this: I do not, even for a second, believe that boycott was caused by the mandarins of NASA. No. It is the members of parliament of both houses who insisted that we want to be sworn in and take on our mantle. Simple as that. So the mandarins of NASA were under intense pressure from these guys who have just gotten mandate from their electorates to represent them in parliament, both houses. So I don't believe this decision was made by the apex of the NASA.
Parliament and the case currently going on at the Supreme Court.
Linda, these guys were not going to protest against the case. They were going to protest against the mischief being brought in by the president to have parliament convened on 31st before the case at the Supreme Court is heard. That was what they were going to protest about. They have nothing to do with that case in the Supreme Court. They were going to protest against the mischief. The president could have waited until the case is heard and determined so that he goes to call parliament when he is a properly elected president.
But he's still the president, no?
No, properly. What does he mean by properly? He's the president. No. He's the president.
Properly elected. As of now, there's a dispute in his election.
Excuse me, he is the president.
Yes.
Let us go back to the Constitution.
Yes,
okay?
he's still
let's
the
understand.
president.
Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, just hear me out, is still
the president
of the country. And he would still continue to be president of the country for the 60 days, even if the Supreme Court was to nullify the election. So let us make it very clear, whether it's the 31st or 2 weeks from now, Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta would still have the power to instigate parliament to start. Let's not mislead Kenyans.
My statement is not whether Uhuru is president or not.
Okay.
He is president on the account of the last swearing in. However, I'm talking about his election now. Okay. Because he's behaving as if there's nothing serious in the Supreme Court. There's a very serious case in the Supreme Court. A case in which Kenyans are being told that servers can be switched off anywhere. I have never had anything like that. My phone would not be working now if servers are switched on at night.
No. I think it's very unfair. No, leader. What? I think it is very, very unfair.
What is unfair?
For him to start, to start discussing a case that is pending judgment. That is very, very bad.
But the thing is in the newspapers. I didn't even attend. It's in the newspapers.
You wait for the case to be.
Okay.
Yes. Determined.
All right. So in other words, NASA members of parliament are probably just going to be sworn in tomorrow, according to Cummins, and then probably just boycott the whole thing. Cummins, are you with us?
I'm with you.
Okay. So basically go get sworn in and then boycott parliament. Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
You know, when you boycott parliament after you have been sworn in, you are properly boycotting parliament. But if you boycott parliament when you have not been sworn in, the only thing you are carrying is some certificate you are given by some returning officer somewhere. You are not an MP.
But you see, Cummins, what baffles me is, so what exactly do the members of parliament hope to gain by that boycott? By the boycott.
By the boycott.
Yeah.
No, they wanted to draw attention that, look, we have a very serious case still going on about the election of the president. Okay. And here is the president still asking us to go to parliament and be sworn in. You know,
so that is where the problem is.
It's just like when you have a funeral at your home. Everything else waits until the big matter is sorted out. Okay. They are belittling the case at the court.
You know, the funniest thing about we as Kenyans is we like to tie things together that are not tied together. And let us be fair to Kenyans that there is a matter that is being handled literally by the Supreme Court of Kenya. That statement by itself, the term supreme, tells you that our constitution and the people of Kenya and the amount of time they've taken to watch TV tells you that in the psychology of the Kenyan person, this matter is supreme. That is understandable. However, the question is, should we as a people, every time we have a matter concerning elections, should lives stop? Should we stop going to go to the dentist? Should we stop making legislation? Should MCAs continue working? Should governors take office? These two things, the reason why we have counties and devolved systems of government is so that if there is crisis in one arm of government, government business in the other arms of government should continue. It will be very sad today if you went to a hospital and you are told because of a court case, we can't have. Even in your example of a funeral, if your father died during KCPE, like a friend of mine, the father died during KCSE, they still want to do the exams. Let's be serious.
Leader, this is an important issue that we must also bring out. These guys of NASA are actually and literally shooting their own foot, by the way, mercilessly, and irrationally at that. If we are to take them seriously on the issue of swearing of the president or determination of the case in court, supposing even they won, are they trying to tell us that Parliament cannot reconvene until now we have another election in the unlikely event that the Supreme Court ruled in their favor? Is that what they're telling us? Because
you need to come back to me. I need to help this guy. The reason for the boycott is not to achieve more than drawing the attention of this country into the way the president is belittling the case in court. If it was already been drawn by just stating that we are going to boycott, then it is good enough. Okay. And I think that was achieved. So they can go there, swear in, and be MPs. They can continue to boycott if they see another reason to do so.
Okay. All right, so let's move on. And there was a meeting today, I believe, at State House to sort of deliberate on who the next leaders are going to be in the National Assembly and the Senate as well. So the leader, the Speaker of the National Assembly, of course, has been Justin Muturi. Let's listen in a little bit to what he had to say on his bid for second term and, quote-unquote, the tyranny of numbers.
Kwa hivyo wanasema ukimwona hapo basi, kwa hivyo huyu mtu si dependent, ni dependent namna gani? Hapa sio nini? Hapa sio bunge. Na kule bunge ni kula watu wanapiga. Mkiwa wachache mjue mtashindwa. Wengine wanasema iko kitu inaitwa tyranny, wanaogopa tyranny pale bunge, na tyranny ni demokrasia. It's just saying the majority will have their way while the minority will be allowed to have their say.
Akuwe speaker mara ya pili 2017 because he has done a good job, na kwa niaba yangu na mwenzangu wa National Assembly Aden Duale, the Jubilee family and all of us supports you, na tunaomba Deputy President na President pia watuunge mkono Justin Muturi apate second term kuwa speaker wa National Assembly.
Alex, if you had to give a scorecard for how Justin Muturi has performed the last 5 years, what would that be like?
In terms of eloquence, 4 out of 10 in relation to
I didn't expect that
Marende.
from you.
But in terms of delivery, quantitative delivery, quantitative delivery, I would give him 8 out of 10. At the end of the day, that's what matters. It's not eloquence that matters. It is quantitative delivery. He has achieved quite a lot in terms of legislation. A lot.
That is enough to get him a second term, you think?
In fact, Kenyans can't even recall the time we even had crisis of legislation in Parliament during his tenure. We did not have. We had a lot during Kaparo's time. We had a lot during... Yes, of course.
He deserves a second...
Yes.
He deserves a second term.
Oh, of course. He deserves a second term.
Mark.
I would go for him.
Mark.
You know, I'm one of those people who believe, and you remember that the speaker used to be the third in line to the presidency. And I've always said, and I insist on this, that the person of a speaker needs to carve out the image of a statesman. And that's my standard. It is not about just parliamentary proceedings. It's about carving out the image of a statesman and building up nationhood. And the person of a speaker... No, he didn't. You know, and that's the painful truth, that in my hope, even in his statement now, as Speaker of the National Assembly, you need to understand that you cannot say that it's going to about majority, because as Speaker you represent the independents, you represent the minority, and you represent the party that has sponsored you there. He needs to come out as someone who's unifying Parliament, because the reality of the matter, there are certain constitutional challenges that we will face and have to deal with. We need someone who's able to say, NASA, listen, can we do this together? And that is why one of the critical failures of the last Parliament, they were unable to tackle the two-thirds rule. Because you cannot just depend on your party members to push an agenda.
Mark, here's a quick one. Do you think he was a unifying factor in the National Assembly?
You know, the problem is we're a bit spoiled as a country because we had Marende. And Marende, what he did is he first divorced himself from ODM and CORD as it was. What was it? It was ODM then, right?
Yes, it was ODM.
He got rid of his tag as ODM. He did not pander to back his side, PNU at all. He stuck in the middle. And if you remember Marende's time, everyone was applauding him. And that is what you need in a speaker. You need a speaker who's ready to rise above partisanship. Because there are certain issues that we'll have to deal with that will not be about NASA, they'll not be about Jubilee, they'll be about Kenya. And that is the kind of speaker that you need.
And you do not see that in Muturi?
I honestly don't.
I think I would like to differ.
Before you go there, let me handle Muturi first.
Okay.
Because if you are a mother, we give you marks on how to take care of children by the way you take care of children of your co-wife, not your own. Your own, you will use your heart. But the children of your co-wife, if you take care of them well, then we give you marks. In eloquence, I give him 4 like you do. But in handling the matters in the assembly fairly, I give him 2 over 10. It is during Muturi's time that we saw water being spilled on that floor. It is during Muturi's time that we saw the highest flies. This is a guy whose election is decided at State House. Do you think this guy can be fair? No, he can't be. Even the other time, it was the president and his deputy who lobbied for him to be the speaker. So he's serving the interest of 2 people and their followers. I wish he could come to Parliament to be an arbiter. Somebody would arbitrate between 2 protagonists freely and fairly. And unfortunately, he's not so eloquent. So I think as a speaker, he is a failure. We needed to replace him.
I think there's an element that we are losing.
Which one?
You see, Parliament is not the speaker as such. Parliament is Parliament itself, the members of Parliament, whether you are talking about the members of the National Assembly or whether you are talking about the Senate. These guys, by the way, when it comes to real business, that separation does not exist. You should see them when they are taking tea. Yes, in Parliament, you see them when they are taking tea, when they are not in chambers, when they are not deliberating on these matters. You should see them. These guys, you will not even realize that this guy is of ODM, this guy is Jubilee.
But now you realize you're on the speaker.
So some of these issues, some of these issues, even when the nation is undergoing a crisis, they are able to sort out outside the floor. they are able to lobby, even within themselves, even across party
Alex,
lines.
forget outside.
So for me,
Alex,
for me, it is this issue is beyond
Alex,
the
you know you're
speaker.
circumventing. You're going round.
The thing is,
Yeah.
let's be honest to Kenyans.
Yes.
Let's be honest to Kenyans. The speaker is one of the symbols, or as a country, we look up to. Let's be honest. Okay? Now, if we are honest to Kenyans and you move outside of our Jubileeism and our NASAism, we know that we need in a speaker someone who holds Kenya first. This is the most critical thing. It has got nothing to do with party. It has got nothing to do with your affiliation. The reality is, if we have a speaker who puts Kenya first, then Kenya wins. And if Kenya wins, then both Jubilee and NASA win. This is the most critical thing. And that's what we need to remember.
But who are the other competitors? Who are the other competitors?
Listen, so as we take a break, we are in a